Hi, and welcome into Real Conversations, a film podcast that seeks to explore the history of the Reel-to-Reel International Film Festival presented by the Cleveland County Arts Council. I'm Festival Director Thomas Manning, and I'm joined today by writer and director Bryce Ferendo, talking about his short film, A Thousand Years, an official selection of Reel-to-Reel 2025. Really excited to be having this film at the festival. It's centers on North Carolina aviation and the Wright brothers. And Bryce, just so much for your time and for bringing your film to us.
No, thank you guys. I'm excited to finally get to play it in North Carolina and appreciate you guys accepting it. And I'm excited.
Yeah. So are we the first film festival in North Carolina to select you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
We'll,
exciting.
we'd love to hear that. Absolutely. And before we dive into talking about this film specifically, I'd love to give you a chance to give a general overview of who you are as a filmmaker and
Yeah,
what has paved the way for where you are right now and how we're talking about 1,000 years.
sure, sure. Yeah, so I'm from Indiana. I grew up in Indiana. Um, I went to Indiana University. I studied like journalism and media. I was into documentaries a lot, but like movies were always there, you know what I mean? The way to tell stories, it was so appealing to me. So I moved out to LA. I actually, by trade I work as an editor in documentary, so I love like real stories. It's probably why I was kind of attracted to the Wright brothers, but I went to USC Film School for grad school out here, and I've always been obsessed with the Wright brothers. Like I grew up, I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, like I wanted to be an astronaut, classic stuff. And so the Wright brothers were always on my radar. I was obsessed with them. I remember going to the Smithsonian and seeing their like first Wright Flyer there because they have the actual plane, and it just blew me away. And I always wondered like why haven't hasn't anybody made a movie about the Wright brothers? Like it's so inspiring and it's so cinematic. Um, and I was just like waiting for that to come. I never thought that I would be the one to do it. But at USC, there's this foundation called the Sloan Science Foundation. They offer kind of production grants for short films about science, about engineers. And I was like, this might be the perfect opportunity to like make a real movie with some money because otherwise you can't really make movies. So we wrote a script and we got the grant, and that's how we got here.
And I really love the dynamic between Wilbur and Orville in this film. Wilbur played by Clayton Ferris and Orville played by Alex Harold. And we have basically Wilbur as the skeptic and then Orville as the optimist. And then we gradually build to this turn where Wilbur becomes almost even, or excuse me, yes, Wilbur becomes almost even more giddy than
Totally.
Orville about the whole situation. Just I love those dual character arcs and how they grow along with each other. Can you get into kind of fleshing those out and
Sure.
why that was so dynamic?
Yeah. So when I was like, I'm just gonna start like reading. I started reading this huge biography of the Wright brothers just to see if like there was sort of a short film. Like obviously their story is huge. This is just a very small part of it. And as I was reading it, it got to this sort of 1901 moment, and it's actually true that Wilbur like says the words, "It'll be 1,000 years before man will ever fly," and he like totally wanted to give up in real life. And so I read that and I was like, that is just mind blowing to me that like they actually had that self doubt and they actually struggled to persevere. And I thought it was super inspiring that the guys who eventually were able to fly actually kind of questioned themselves. And so that became the focal point. And so fleshing the characters out, it was always going to be Wilbur sort of on the end, on the end of his line. He's ready to give up. And it's super fascinating to me that the one Wilbur's the one who actually got them into the flying and stuff. So it was really fascinating to me that the guy who once was the most gung-ho about it is now questioning it. Because as artists, I feel like I'm always questioning myself. Like, I should give up on film and stop believing in myself. And so fleshing them out, Orville was always going to be the one kind of pestering him, that pestering brother to try and get him to come around. And Clayton and Alex obviously did such an amazing job. Their chemistry is top notch. They've actually like gone on to be really great friends, and they've made a few other projects. And I think you can see that in the way that they performed it. So super appreciative that they joined the project.
Yeah, and something that really stood out to me about both Clayton and Alex was their knowledge of their relationship to the camera and really how to
Yeah,
maximize that impact as actors.
totally.
What did you see there, from your standpoint behind the camera that really made that as effective as it did?
You are 100% right. Clayton with Clayton, it's a funny story. We sent out casting calls and we got like 250 submissions. And over the course of a few weeks, we went through them all. We found Alex, and immediately I was like, Alex is 100% the one. Because he kind of also looks like Orville. He's got the vibe, and he's really funny. And he definitely has that kind of theatrical understanding where the camera is. So he's a pro. He's a pro. Um, with Clayton, none of the guy, we didn't get Clayton's submission until very late. And I was like having panic attacks. Like none of these people are that good. I mean, they're all great, but they weren't good for the role. And then like the week that we had to lock it in, Clayton submitted, and just absolute pro. Like his subtleties, what he can do with his eyes, and understanding that sometimes on film, less is better. Some actors tend to like overdo it, and he was just like locked in, knows where the camera is, knows what to do subtly, and it's I don't know, it's incredible. I'm so lucky to have gotten Clayton. He's a pro now. He's getting a lot of roles now in some bigger movies, some horror stuff, and he's in like Geico commercials, so he knows what's up.
Yeah, and the cinematography on this film was from Jonathan E. McCormack. And there's a few specific scenes I want to talk about, but really from
Sure.
the opening frame, we start off with that handheld shaky cam, just getting right to the action. Uh,
Yeah.
can you talk about crafting that initial sequence and why you wanted to start it out in such a frenetic pace that you did there?
Sure. First of all, I love that you're bringing up all the cast and crew because they're incredible. I was so blessed to have that team. Obviously, filmmaking is like you can't do it alone. You literally can't do it alone. And to have the village and of such talented people that helped it get there. And Jonathan is a legend. Jonathan is an absolute legend. He's so talented. Um, he made it look 10 times better than I ever could have imagined it to have looked. That first shot, we originally had it planned as a steady cam, sort of like we're flying up the hill. Um, Steadicam's really expensive. So I'll be completely honest. We had a conversation and we were like, you know what? They're out there. It's chaotic. He's running. Like it probably wouldn't look that good in a Steadicam anyways. So let's just go handheld or let's just have it crazy. I mean, Wilbur possibly hurt. I'm calling Alex Orville is freaking out. So it was super fun to do that. We did like 3 takes of that because on the beach we only had a few hours to shoot. Um, and I think it works great, especially with the score from our composer Krista, just like popping us in there. Yeah, I'm happy how that turned out for sure.
Right. And then there's a shot toward the middle of the film. It's a 360 overhead rotation. And
Yeah,
they're sitting down and kind of diagramming and modeling some of the math with the bicycle wheel. Can you talk a little bit about pulling off that shot and
yeah,
just that was at a very dramatic point in the narrative when they're bringing everything together, scientifically and creatively.
sure. I love that you brought that up because that was like so stressful. That scene actually was not in the script. It wasn't even shot on the first sort of 9 production days. There was a different scene where they just kind of like hold up a bicycle wheel and they like kind of they had it. They had the idea. And in editing, we were like, it's not jiving. Nobody would really it's not believable that they just suddenly figured it out. Um, and so we needed to reshoot that scene. And this is like a month after we've like killed the studio. We don't have the bicycle shop anymore. So we had to find a way to do it without the bicycle shop. Alex had shaved his mustache. So there's like a lot of logistical reasons why we had to do it that way. And once we like worked through those, we are like, oh, this is so much better than anything we could have come up with. So we just like rigged a um FX3, I think it was, on a DJI, any of those stabilizers. It can, I don't, how in depth do you want to go about this? Because I get nerdy.
Take it as nerdy as you want.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those stabilizers that you can like strap a DSLR to, but if you turn it up and there's like a barrel mode where it can just spin like this. So we strapped that to the ceiling and we just had them do their thing as it was like slowly rotating. We had to do it a ton of times to get it to where their choreography was perfect. But it was, I don't know, it was, I'm so proud of that because we didn't have a full crew and we just like threw it together, scrappy style, you know?
Yeah. And the peak of this film, both in terms of the action and emotion, doesn't actually involve flight. We never really see them pull it off until obviously some of the stock footage later at the end credits. But the peak is just another major step for them on their way to the flight that would come years later. I
Sure.
thought that was a really fascinating, dramatic device, and with the climax being just one more step. Can you kind of talk about crafting that as a storyteller and
Yeah.
yeah, figuring that out?
Yeah. A lot of my answers will just come down to like, we didn't have enough money. But no, when I was reading the biography, I was looking for something that was like small scale and sort of a piece of history that most people don't know. And this summer, not many people understand the intricacies of what they did in terms of their experiments. People know they're like, oh, they eventually, flew in Kitty Hawk for a few seconds. But then I read about this bicycle test that they did, which is totally 100% true. And I was like, hey, that's super cinematic. You've got speed, you can have energy, you can have excitement. And, B, it was something that nobody really knew about. And so from the get-go, them riding down the hill and kind of celebrating that they got their wing to have enough lift was like gonna be the climax. And it was just about how do we do it in the most effective way. And part of that is how great the music is from Krista, Uh, up until then, without the music, it was like the temp music wasn't that great, and we're like, it'll work. And she killed it for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Krista. I thought the score was just gorgeous throughout. How were you familiar with Krista's work prior to this, or when did you bring her onto this?
Yeah, she had done a few scores for some documentaries that I saw at USC. I was into the documentary world a lot, and I still am. Um, and somebody put me in touch with her, and we immediately hit it off because she loves. I'm a big fan of Interstellar. I don't know if Christopher Nolan. I love. Obviously, I'm wearing an NASA hat. I love space movies, and that was kind of. She also was, and she loves Hans Zimmer. Obviously, he's one of the greatest. But just sort of like I don't know, the heart in that music. There's like a subtle kind of soft heart to that music that we kind of both loved and figured we could try and find something similar. And she killed it for sure.
Yeah, I definitely thought I heard a few shades of Interstellar in there, and
Yeah.
yeah, the docking scene in
The
that film,
docking
I was
scene,
kind of reminded of that in certain sequences here. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, and kind of going back to the final bicycle test. Just a quick note. I noticed you used a drone shot there.
Yeah.
Did that kind of meta irony, was that speaking to you there?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, at some point we were like, we obviously can't, get a glider to fly through the sky. That's why we use the stock footage. But we were like, how can we do something like that? And it's like, we have to lift off, right? We have to somehow fly. And so the drone was the only option. And I think, yeah, our drone operator is awesome. Cameron Babcock, a good friend of mine, he came out there like at the end of one of the shoot days and just like nailed it. Um, and I think it works also with the music. But it would have been nice to actually build a full scale glider and like fly it around. But I think it's good enough to get in the air with the drone for sure.
Most definitely. And a couple other crew members I'll mention and give you a chance to speak on the costume design. I think Meredith Haka, and then
Yeah,
production design from Susie
Susie.
Schofield. Yeah, yeah. I just think, I mean, from the get-go, that instantly transports you into the world. Um, were those folks you'd worked with before, or were just people that you had seen their work before and wanted to bring them on to
Yeah,
collaborate?
yeah. Both I had Meredith I had worked with on a horror film that I produced, and Susie, some friends of mine had worked with her and told me that she was the absolute real deal. She had worked on a lot of like commercial things and dealt with big budgets. I mean, I like 80% of our budget here went to production design. So we wanted somebody who like understood how to manage that and manage a team below her because it was a huge undertaking. I mean, she had a lot on her plate and pulled it off, and it looks great. Um, I mean, yeah, it's incredible. We built the bike shop on one of the stages at USC, so she had to kind of oversee that entire construction and design, and um, yeah, it's I'm really grateful for the work she did. Meredith too, she we had a great time collaborating about, what kind of colors and what kind of outfits would sort of match where the characters were at each scene. Um, and she was super fun to work with. Yeah, the whole team was incredible on this.
Yeah. So was there a lot of extensive historical research you did just as far as the
Yeah.
accuracy of their costumes and their bike shop and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we have like a whole Google Drive of historical photos we're referencing. The Library of Congress has so many photos of the Wright brothers, and they were known to document like extremely well. They brought their wet plate camera out to Kitty Hawk and back in Dayton as well, so they got a lot of great photos that we could use. For that. And we were looking at all kinds of bike shops for inspiration. So that's why I like these real stories, because you can just dive into history and you can learn a lot during the process, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, considering that you seem to be a major fan of North Carolina aviation, I just wanted to bring something up that you might find interesting. So, my great grandfather, I believe, he was actually the first commercially licensed pilot in North Carolina,
No
George,
way.
George Alton Stewart, and I actually have a photocopy of his pilot's license here.
No way. That's
And I don't know if you can see
Oh
that,
my
but it's
gosh.
signed by, I think it's
Is that
signed by
from like
Orville.
1890? Okay, that's what
Yep.
this is. It's signed by Orville Wright. Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Yep.
dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
What year would that have been? Like 1915, 1920s, maybe?
yeah. So this is year of 1926,
1926. Okay, wow, that's awesome.
and he passed away in a plane crash on Christmas Day, a
Oh,
few years after that. But
all right.
yeah. So
It was
just
dangerous back then. It was
yes.
they were not those planes weren't safe as they are today.
Yeah,
But
most definitely. Yeah, but
so
yeah,
awesome.
so there's a historical marker for him in Dunn, North Carolina.
Oh wow.
And
That's awesome.
so yeah, I thought you might appreciate that and
Yeah, I actually have not, this is gonna shock everyone. I have not been to Kitty Hawk yet.
oh wow.
My partner's family is all from Raleigh. They're all from North Carolina, and they're like, "How you need to get out here?" We're like, "We need to go." But I have to mention this since we're on the subject. They did fly in North Carolina, but I feel like sometimes people forget how much work they did in Dayton, Ohio as well. Yeah, it has to be mentioned because I'm from Indiana, and so I've been to Dayton. I have been to their museum in Dayton, and if you haven't been there, it's incredible. They have the actual bike shop. They have so many artifacts, but a lot of the work was done in Dayton, and they went out to Kitty Hawk because they wanted to conquer those winds. They needed the wind and the soft sand. But I'm super excited to eventually get out to Kitty Hawk at some point.
Yeah, for sure. It's North Carolina is a gorgeous state from coast to coast. Well,
Yeah,
east coast of the mountains. So
yeah. You got the
yeah,
mountains and you got the
yeah,
coast. No, it's a great state for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Was there anybody on the production from North Carolina that you know of?
Uh, I don't. So my partner helped out on the film. She was a production assistant and executive producer. So there's one.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think anybody else was. Uh, but we're excited to show
yeah,
it there. And
yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate also. So this is a funny. We shot the image behind me is not obviously not North Carolina. It's Oxnard, California. And it was really hard to find a place that kind of looked the same. But I got thumbs up from a lot of my partner's family, like, oh, I had no idea that it wasn't that it wasn't North Carolina. But we would have loved to have been able to shoot it in Dayton and also North Carolina. Maybe if
yeah,
we make a feature and we have more money. But
yeah. Yeah,
either way.
well, I mean, I'll say as a lifelong North Carolinian, I think y'all did us proud with this film, and
Oh, thank you.
you could have fooled me into thinking that this was shot on the coast here. So,
Awesome. Means a lot.
kudos to y'all on that front for sure. Yeah,
Sweet. Love to hear
yeah,
that.
yeah, and yeah, we're just really excited to be having this at Reel to Reel. And for those listening, we're showing 1,000 Years on the closing night of the festival. That is July 26th at the Joy Performance Center in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And Bryce, we wish we could have you there in person, but really glad that we could connect virtually and talk about
Sure.
really dive into the production here. So thanks so much for your time and for your film, and just really honored to have your work here.
Yeah, thank you guys. I wish I could be there too. I really do, and I hope you all enjoy it. And glad I got to talk with you. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And for those listening, once again, join us at Reel to Reel July 23rd through the 26th at the Joy Performance Center in Kings Mountain, and we hope to see y'all there.